On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, holy crap, Scottie Barnes.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the land. Your team every day. It is Friday, November the 14th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. We'd love to see you become part of our listener community. And let me tell you, it has been 3 years, I think, 2.5 years that we've had the Discord. We've never gotten to talk about a good team. It's pretty fun. We're having a great time in there. And, just dunking on the team that the Raptors wax. A pretty good way to spend an evening. Come hang out in our listener community. Again, always free to join. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And we'll get started here, bringing in our new bi-weekly Friday contributor to the podcast. One of my favorite dudes to talk hoop with in the entire world. Formerly of The Score, now of Locked On Raptors, baby. It's Joe Wolfond here to talk about a Raptors beatdown. Maybe not a beatdown, but it kind of felt very comfortable for most of this one of the Cleveland Cavaliers, 126-113. The Raptors are 7-5. They've won 6 of 7. We're going to get into the offense, which is utterly unstoppable. We'll get into the good, the bad, and the but we're going to start off with Scottie Barnes. Joe Wolfond, welcome in, buddy. Holy crap. Was that the best game Scottie Barnes has ever played?
I mean, recency bias is a hell of a drug.
It is.
So I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah.
There's probably a performance or two that I'm forgetting about, but who cares? Like, I think just riding the high of that game in general, I mean, that's the most enjoyable Raptors performance that we've seen in 3 years, maybe?
Yeah.
And, if you, like me, are desperately searching for any kind of a cure for the Blue Jays hangover depression that we've all been living under for the last, I don't know, how long has it been now? 2 weeks, 10 days? Like, it feels...
Yeah, we definitely did not curse them when we did the podcast about how they were a team of destiny 2 weeks ago. Please don't go back and listen to that. Anyway, carry on.
It's fine. I had no regrets, honestly. They were the team of destiny until they weren't. There was a glitch in the Matrix and it all went wrong, but I have no regrets about anything I said because that was a truly magical season, and 2026 is just going to have to be one win better. That's where we're at. But
it's a shame, though, because the Toronto Raptors are going to overshadow the early part of the baseball season because of just how deep they're going to play into May, June. I don't know. Let's get crazy. The offense can't be stopped, dude. Anyway, you were talking about Scottie Barnes, who was very good. Carry on.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of what he was able to do at both ends of the floor, it would be hard to think of another performance where he's played at that high a level with that kind of motor, just making so much stuff happen, putting out a million fires at the defensive end of the floor. And that's like we can get into talking about that later because he had to do that on a lot of occasions. But he was up to the challenge. He was everywhere on defense. And then the way that, really the whole team, but Scottie is the primary driver of that, was turning defense to offense. I just loved the intent with which he was getting the ball up the floor. Like, and in some cases, setting guys, like set up Jak with a beautiful lefty dime. And that was like one possession after he'd thrown an amazing dart pass to Jak, who smoked the layup. So like his passing in transition was amazing, but also just like going straight to the basket.
Yeah.
Just playing like an absolute boss. And that's, I mean, you can see in my title card here, like I want to get the Scott Barnes appreciation going. I think just the maturity that he's playing with right now, it feels more like a Scott than a Scottie, like I just feel like we're seeing him grow up before our very eyes. And that was a mature performance last night. One when he totally recognized the way that he could impact that game. And that was with just like sheer force, speed, physicality. And, that's what we've been dying to see from him. And I think it was, none of it felt forced.
Yeah.
It was all just like picking his spots, finding the opportunities to run in the half court, finding opportunities to bully guys when he had mismatches. And then defensively just, making all the right rotations, snuffing stuff out at the rim, switching out onto the perimeter, and containing the ball out there when he had to do that. I don't know how much more can you say? It was
right?
A masterpiece.
Yeah, it was all encompassing. It was every corner of the game. He was there doing something, like a one-man possession destroyer on defense where, like, yeah, there were some times where the Raptors gave up some, easy drives to the bucket or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, okay, Scottie's there to put out the fire. He had 5 blocks, of course. I thought his rebounding in this game was remarkable. Just like the number of times he went up for a heavily contested rebound and just emerged with it among like 2 or 3 or 4 huge bodies. Pretty remarkable. And then the way
which by the way, that's like him grabbing those rebounds is how he was able to fuel those transition rushes the other way. So that's an important point.
Yeah, like he grabs them, and then it's just like, sometimes a guy will grab a board, wait for a sec to kind of have the area clear, and then sort of, all right, we're going to walk it up and start a half-court possession. No, like it's just like, bam, they are going. And I mean, this has been the case for them all year. I think it was clear from like the first preseason game that they are running off of every single miss they can possibly create. And I think obviously Scottie is kind of the basis of that ethos. And I mean, they are far and away right now, Joe, the number 1 transition team in basketball on offense in terms of frequency, like 1.5 percentage points ahead of the number 2 team. The gap between them and number 2 is the same as the gap between like 2 and 10. It's crazy. Like they are just running down teams' throats. And, having Scottie as the guy who can force misses the most effectively than anyone else, like that is just that sort of every part of the game, he is doing something to kind of help the Raptors play within the identity they're trying to achieve. Pretty awesome stuff. And then the offensive stuff, man, like I talked about this a little bit, this week. The offense has been kind of the theme of the week because it's been so damn good. And we're going to talk more about the offense coming up. But just like you said, nothing forced, none of those like, all right, I'm going to sort of get the ball and just sort of see what happens as I do a probing drive and do a body, or I'm going to sort of back down in the post and just kind of wait and maybe I'll do the turnaround baseline thing. Like, no, there's so much like intentionality when he gets the ball. He knows exactly what he's trying to do to the defense and what he's trying to get out of it. And to your point about him just like hunting the rim, I mean, how many times in years past, last season in particular, would a Scottie Barnes drive just kind of end 8 feet from the basket, 10 feet from the basket because he just can't quite turn the corner, can't make it all the way, or just decides, I'm just going to pull up. Instead, like challenging Evan Mobley at the rim, driving like coast to coast off of rebounds in a situation where like he could totally have like held up, stop the possession, and no, just like burst through the wall like the Kool-Aid man. It's really impressive stuff, man. It's like, again, to your point, recency bias, it's a thing. He's had games with sort of more prolific totals before. He's had triple doubles. He's had 30 burgers against the Lakers in his rookie season, stuff like that. But as far as like a performance on a team that's actually trying to win, it's the first we've seen on this level in years. And yeah, I don't think you can be anything but thrilled with the way Barnes has started the season. And I mean, look, Brandon Ingram had 11 points in this game. I don't think you can sort of underrate what having Ingram on the team, and with what Quickly's doing as well, is doing to just kind of open up Scottie to do the whole wrecking crew thing for 94 feet as opposed to carrying so much burden like he did last year.
I mean, this might be something or it might be nothing, but it was just because I was looking up his kind of shot profile on cleaning the glass. And I don't know how they do these positional designations, but I will say this is the first season of his career where he has been designated as a big.
Right.
He started out as a wing. Last year he was designated as a forward for the first time, and this year he's designated as a big, which to me is awesome because he can still do all of the wingy stuff in terms of like the way that he can pass, lead the break, he can handle the ball a bit in the half court, but him doing biggie things is something that I think is going to benefit him and the team.
Like me at Wendy's in high school at lunch doing biggie things. We're going to come back on the other side here, Joe, and get into the offense, which had another incredible performance last night against the defense that was ranked highly until the Raptors steamrolled them. We'll get into some of the numbers behind the offense and just what's clicking. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by a new sponsor, it's Drip Drop. And let me tell you, when I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. They sent me some. There is some in my cup right now. And I got to tell you, it's a doctor-developed hydration that keeps you running at full power no matter what your day looks like. And I am someone who has a hard time just like remembering to drink water throughout the day. And I always feel just refreshed, hydrated, and ready for whatever is next when I have some Drip Drop to kind of recover, whether it's, I've gone to play basketball or something like that and I've sweated all out. Having a Drip Drop afterwards, it's wonderful. Or just to start the day in the morning when I feel a little dry and as though I, didn't drink water the night before. Because I bet you I didn't, because I'm really, really bad at remembering. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top colleges and pro teams. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. That's go to dripdrop.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. I guess in the Southern Hemisphere, because it is, of course, the winter here. But keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Go check them out. Today's show is also brought to you by Wayfair. And look, holidays are coming up. You might be hosting. Maybe you want to refresh your space. Maybe, like me, you've welcomed someone new into the world this year and your entire furniture setup has to change because it's just not conducive to having a child crawling and running around. And Wayfair can be the best place for you to go and refresh your space with new furniture and all kinds of home decor. And Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. Best part, you don't got to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday sale deals are happening all month long with the 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas, so you can be ready for that hosting in the holiday season, which is very, very soon. It's wonderful. If you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know what a difference a few different touches can make. Some extra decor, some extra seating as you have people over, whatever it might be. I like a little outdoor setup during the holidays as well. Maybe a little fireplace, put some chairs around it to keep the people outside as opposed to inside. It's all there for you to go peruse at Wayfair. Don't miss out on their Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December the 7th. Go check it out. Back at it here, talking about your 7-5 steamrolling Toronto Raptors. Again, winners of 6 of 7 with a whole lot of really, really bad teams. I think a combined record of 3-30 among most of their upcoming opponents, the Pacers, Nets, and Wizards. It's going to be fun. Hopefully, don't lose those games. If you can beat the Cavs, just steamroll those teams. That'd be great. I'm using the word steamroll too much. Anyway, Joe, last night, Cavaliers come into the game with a top 10 defense. They no longer have a top 10 defense because the Raptors eviscerated them. And this has been the theme of the season so far. The offense is just kind of doing everything. The half-court offense is incredible. The transition offense is just gangbusters. And they are just like a really hard team to slow down. There's, I think, a diversity to what they can do with all the different options they have as sort of the guys who initiate. They run a whole bunch of different types of stuff over the course of a game. I think they're tough to plan for possession to possession. What have you been seeing with this offense? What did you see last night as they picked apart the Evan Mobley, Jared Allen front court, which in the past has given them a lot of trouble? Just, again, a really, really impressive performance for a Raptors team that going into last night, we're number 1 in the league against opposing top 10 defenses until they dropped the Cavs out of the top 10 and warped the numbers. They're 7th now because the Cavs aren't a top 10 defense. Right. But that speaks to just how good they were last night. What are you seeing on the offensive end? It's been a treat to watch.
Yeah, so it's like the two facets. I mean, they're way better in the half court than I could have possibly expected them to be. Like if you told me that they were going to be, I think they're 6th overall. That's by cleaning the glass at least in offensive rating. I mean, if you told me that, yeah. So I would have just said, yeah, that's all fueled by transition, and they're kind of like scraping by in the half court, maybe like their league average in half court offense, and like they're number 1 in transition offense, and that's not been the case. They're 5th in, and this is again cleaning the glass. This is like first shot half court efficiency. So like they're not a very good offensive rebounding team. And so the fact that they're like fifth in first shot half court offense is like almost making up for the fact that like oftentimes it's like you're only getting one shot per possession. So there's a couple things to look at. And like, again, talking about last night and how much damage they did in transition, and going back to a conversation that we had before the start of the season, we were talking about how inefficient they were in transition last year. And me saying, you know, like really the most important thing is just to like get as many of those possessions as possible. So Cleaning the Glass has a stat that I like to use to basically identify how good a team is in transition, which is points plus, which is like taking volume and efficiency together to say how many estimated points per 100 possessions is this team adding versus what we would expect if they never played in transition at all. And the Raptors are, let me look, they're ninth in that stat, or tied for eighth, with 4 points per 100 possessions per added via transition play. And that's despite the fact that in just like raw efficiency, like points per transition possession, they're 20th.
Yeah.
And that speaks to the fact that they're, like you said, number one with a bullet in transition frequency, and especially like you mentioned, running off of defensive rebounds, where the league average is 30.5% of the time, and the Raptors are doing that 41.1% of the time. So
crazy.
Just like finding as many opportunities as possible to get out on the break. And something like I'll add just on top of the Scottie of it all last night was IQ being either the trail guy or just like having the ball and pulling up for three in transition. So he took 7 threes last night, and 6 of them were either in transition or semi-transition with like 20 seconds on the shot clock, including the 35-footer that he launched that I think a lot of people would have been scratching their heads or like wringing their hands about had he not made it, but he made it. And, you know, having that is like really a crucial element of a transition offense. Like you're not just going to be able to go the length of the court and get a layup every time, right? So having him be a threat, whether it is as the trail guy or a guy who can have the ball and just pull up, is really important, and also a good way for, like, we want to see him up that 3-point volume as much as possible, right? So that's a good way for him to do that. So I thought that was pretty
awesome,
key.
by the way, was the possession where Mamu catches it on the run, and then just like he probably could have finished it, but was instead like, no, quickly he's there on the wing, I'm just gonna toss it back to him, and he cans it.
No, and like I saw some people kind of like screen capping that at the point where Mamu like caught the ball and he was already looking to kick it out and being like, you know, this is the NBA in 2025 or whatever. But to an extent that's true, but also I don't think the screen cap captures just like how fast he was running to catch up to that ball.
Yeah.
Because I think RJ, like, it got deflected or his arm got hit when he was trying to throw that hit-ahead pass, so it was kind of like not an especially accurate pass. Mamu had to run it down, and he was like right under the basket. I honestly think he would have been hard-pressed to make that layup. So it was a heads-up play by him to find quickly for that three. So that's been big, just the amount that they're running. And it's offset the fact that they are, you know, basically in the bottom 10 of the league in terms of efficiency on those transition possessions, but they're just running so much that it almost doesn't matter. And then in the half court, I think it's a huge credit to all the players for buying in. It's a huge credit to the coaching staff. And again, going back to that convo we had at the start of the season when you were asking me, like, if they're going to be top 10 on either side of the ball, which is it more likely to be? And I don't know if you remember, but what I said is like, there's definitely more talent on the offensive side.
Sure.
But I have a lot more questions about how that's all going to fit together. And I think they've done a masterful job. Like, everybody sort of knows their roles and their spots on the floor. Everybody's moving and cutting. The decision-making is, like, rapid fire.
Yeah.
Again, like, they don't have optimal spacing, but the interior passing can make up for a lot. And we're seeing a lot of that. Like, guys can cut into space where, you know, there isn't maybe a ton of room to thread those passes, but a guy like Scottie, a guy like Jak, a guy like Ingram, whether they're throwing it over the top or shoveling it through a tight crevice, like, they can make those passes to find their way to efficient shots. And I think also, you know, they have that quick hitting stuff that they can get to, but they're also not afraid to just like identify a mismatch and go dump the ball into Ingram and let him do his thing, or Scottie, you know? So I think having, those change ups in their back pocket where it's like, yeah, this is like maybe the first option is to have a scripted play, to have a guy running off a screen, like to, get to something specific that is not going to work out a lot of the time because NBA defenses are really good at identifying and snuffing that stuff out. Well, it's like, okay, here we go. We have a guy who can go and get us a bucket. We've created a mismatch because of a switch, and we're going to attack that. And I think in terms of the quick decision-making, that goes into it too, right? Like identifying those mismatches and attacking them quickly is super important because if you don't do that in a hurry, the defense is going to load up on it. They're going to have a kick-out switch where the mismatch disappears. Like you have to react quickly to all of that stuff as well, and I think they've just done such a good job of that aspect of offense. So that to me is what, also like incredible shot making from Ingram, even though he didn't have his best shooting night last night. Just like the contested middies that he's able to make are super impressive. And then, you have the second unit coming in and like you have Jamal Shed, who just seems like every time he puts the ball on the floor, he's able to get into the teeth of the defense. And Mamu is wetting threes and like has a really impressive pump and drive game. Like, I think they're just showcasing a lot of different pitches and it's working unbelievably well.
We're still baseball brained. I love it. I think the other thing, it's like the most simplistic sort of analysis of basketball, but like they got a lot of dudes who draw 2 to the ball or 3 to the ball and just like command help. And when you have quick decision making out of that, it's a very simple sport at the end of the day. Like there was a stretch or a possession in I think the third quarter last night where Ingram gets it in one of those sort of engineered ISOs on the wing, and he kind of drives and like 2 dudes come to meet him at the free throw line, and then RJ Barrett's just like wide open for a baseline cut as his dude goes up to help, and it's just like, okay, I'll throw it to him and he'll dunk it. Like it's just very like, again, and it's just sort of this cascading thing where you have an extra advantage creator in there, and every little advantage can be kind of layered on top of one another. And I thought they would do that to like, again, a middling effect, like not top 10, and we'll see how it holds up. But again, they've done it against good defenses. They've done it against everyone. And I'm growing more and more a believer day by day that they can just kind of hold up this level of offensive production in the half court. And we'll get into it in a little bit when we get to the good, the bad, and the But I think that what they're doing on offense is just kind of leading to all kinds of other stuff that they're able to do to pick low-hanging fruit elsewhere on the floor. And we'll get into that coming up in just one sec here, Joe, as we get to the good, bad, and to round it out. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every single time an NBA player drops 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag, which has all kinds of player swag, exclusive gear, and stuff that you'll actually want. And of course, it's not just for food. You can get, toiletry items, headphones, whatever it is, delivered to you with DoorDash, and you get that 50% off the next day when a player drops 50. It happened a couple nights ago when Nikola Jokic dropped 50. It looked like he was going to drop 100 at one point. It would have applied the deal as well had he done that too. Maybe you get double off. I don't know how that works. We'll have to ask DoorDash. Either way. So next time someone goes for 50 in a game, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off DoorDash with your Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off up to 10 days after, up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms applied. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashinYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season is rolling along, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks, and you can stay engaged in the game that way all the way through. Plus, you can bind your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. And maybe you're not a basketball wagerer. Maybe you'd like to look at baseball free agency landing spot futures, and you want to say, hey, Kyle Tucker to the Blue Jays, maybe I'll put some money down on that happening. And if it happens, not only does your baseball team get Kyle Tucker on it, but also you get some money out of the deal. There's futures bets on Stanley Cup winners in the NHL, NBA champions, MVP winners in the NBA. Maybe throw some money down on the Raptors making it to the finals. You can do that. It's all there for you at FanDuel right now. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back at it here, rounding things out with the good, the bad, and the It's the way we rounded every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing we liked, a thing we didn't like, and a thing that's got us a little bit intrigued from the latest in Raptors hoops. And here we've got Joe Wolfond. It's your first good, bad, and We're usually on for like sprawling deep dive conversations, but it happens we got a game to talk about today. So I will give you the honors. What was your good from this game, Joe?
So, I mean, yeah, we talked about Scottie. We talked about the offense generally. So just to kind of zero in on what was most heartening to me was seeing IQ and especially Jak have a game where they both looked like close to the best versions of themselves. I think Jak is still not quite there, but I just think it was so nice and so important for him to have a game like that where, you know, defensively, he's still not quite where I think you would want him to be, but that was a really good offensive game from him where the touch on the push shot was there. His screening was so solid and so important to their half-court offense. The finishing, the passing, like everything was kind of, I think, what you hope and expect to get from Jakob Poeltl. And, you know, honestly, in the midst of everything he's been dealing with, like, you know, with the back injury and whether just unavailable or ineffective when he's been available, they've managed to paper that over because Mamu has been so good and because CMB, when he's been asked to step in and play center, has been really good. But ultimately, they're going to need Jak, you know? And so to see him have a game like that against a team with a really big and usually very effective front line was awesome. Yeah. And, you know, I say IQ as well because I think, you know, for him, it really has been like the defense, I think, is just going to be what it's going to be. I think there are situations where he can be more effective as like an off-ball defender than he's been so far. But, you know, I don't think that at any point you're going to be expecting him to be like a lockdown on-ball defender. Like the stuff at the point of attack is going to be something they're going to have to work around for the most part. But offensively, I kind of felt like, really apart from the three-point shot not being there, I've seen some encouraging signs from him. And as much as the three-point shooting was fantastic last night, shooting 5 for 7 from deep, and again, like I said, 6 of those 7 three-point attempts being of the sort of transition or semi-transition variety, the fact that he was 5 for 6 from two-point range was maybe even more encouraging to me. And like he's up to 54% from two-point range on the season. And I don't know if he's going to sustain that, but I think him finding opportunities, like there were a couple backdoor cuts, right? Or setting back screens and slipping out of those and like just finding his way to the rim, finding the touch on his floater, all that stuff where, you know, I actually had felt like in spite of the fact that he'd struggled in these other areas, there had been signs of like progression in terms of just the overall floor game. And also just the way that he's embraced this off-ball role where, you know, he has the ball in his hands some of the time and is figuring out how to play as kind of a point guard in those scenarios, but he's not playing like a point guard all the time or even close to it. Yeah. And I think he has been really effective playing off of the ball, and that's something I'll get into more when I talk about my But seeing him have that kind of game and him and Jak in tandem, because they'd both been struggling. And not only did they both have good games individually, I think they had good games kind of like in tandem because of like the two-man partnership that they have.
Tied in with yours very quickly for my good. I will say the starters are now a positive lineup on the season. There was so much consternation after the first few games. Oh my God, they're terrible. They're going to get waxed every time they hit the floor. No, they're mostly since Jakob Poeltl hasn't been doing spawn con for Robaxaset, they've been just fine. And so, they are now a plus 1.3 net rating on the season. They've been a plus 17 in 9 fourth quarter minutes over their last 3 games played together as well, closing out games really nicely, leaving it so they're not really getting into these sort of hairy crunch time moments in 1 or 2 possession games, just kind of locking it down when they've got a 10, 12 point lead as they did last night. Really impressed with the starters. And not a coincidence that as Quickly and Poeltl have come along, the starters have become a pretty solid lineup that you can count on to win minutes. I'll quickly go the bad for me, Joe. I'll say the offense against the zone the Cavs threw at them was a little less than stellar. The late third quarter, early fourth is where this game probably got the hairiest. And I think it's just because the Raptors couldn't quite bust that zone, at least not right away. They saw 10 straight possessions of zone late in that third quarter, early fourth. They saw 12 total possessions of zone last night, which is like a quarter of the zone they've seen all season long per synergy. But in those 10 possessions, the first 7, not so hot. They missed a three, turnover, missed 2, turnover, missed 3. Not a lot of movement, pretty stagnant, and just like not getting much work in against the zone. They ended up busting it with the Grady Dick 3 that was mostly just a Cavs blown coverage. I don't know what happened there, but it was wide open on the wing for Grady. He knocks it down. Then they got a couple Poeltl free throw trips where he hit all 4. By the way, Jakob Poeltl hitting free throws. That's a beautiful thing. Got to do a little better against the zone. I think Scottie's going to be their best zone buster, as you mentioned, the sort of flash into the middle, the mid-range stuff, the driving from there. That's probably going to be a useful thing. They did look better when they flowed through him at the nail, but overall, probably the area on offense they could stand to work on the most right now. What was your bad, Joe?
Jakob Poeltl just deciding to shoot free throws as if they are like one-hand push shots, and that being super effective. It's a wonderful development.
Right.
Okay, so my bad. I'm not trying to rain on the parade of what was a great feel-good win. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, outside of Scottie, I don't think this was a good defensive game from the Raptors. And I think they got pretty lucky that the Cavs missed a ton of pretty open threes. I think they shot 10 for 41 from deep in the game. And a lot of those were like good looks for good shooters. Like Sam Merrill is a really good 3-point shooter who just happened to miss a lot of good looks in that game. And there, one aspect of it is just the point of attack defense, which is, a consistent problem. They could not keep Donovan Mitchell out of the paint, which is admittedly a problem for like most teams in the league. But here's the thing, like Darius Garland didn't play in this game. Mm-hmm. And Darius Garland is really good and would have posed a huge challenge for a team that struggles to defend on the perimeter. And that just left a massive, massive workload on Mitchell's shoulders. And like credit to him, he was absolutely relentless, but he also shot 2 for 9 from 3 and committed 7 turnovers because of how much heavy lifting he had to do. And I just am still I think there's been big improvements in this department, but I'm still kind of unmoved by the communication generally on defense. Sure. And there were a ton of those miscommunications in the game last night. And so one thing for me is like, I think there's a little bit of over switching going on when it's like just a soft switch that they're giving up when they don't have to, when they're switching themselves into a bad matchup that they don't have to, like they could fight a little harder to avoid that. There's a lot of Poeltl kind of on the perimeter that I don't think needs to be happening, whether that's playing in a high drop or just outright switching when it's like that's not really an optimal way to use him on defense, and he has not been especially good at ball containment in those situations. And then it's just stuff like, Merrill, I think there was 3 pretty open threes that he got, and he only hit 1 of them. Mm-hmm. But 3 situations where it's like one guy thought it was a switch and one guy didn't. And so 2 guys either went with the screener basically, or with the ball handler, and Merrill pops open for a 3. That happened also with a Craig Porter 3. And it's like, again, a situation where Mobley is the guy dribbling the ball up the court. Mm-hmm. And he's like at the logo when Porter comes to set this inverted ball screen for him. And I think it was Grady who was defending Porter, and Scottie was defending Mobley. And so Scottie thinks he's staying with Mobley. He's going under the screen because Evan Mobley is not a threat to pull up from 30 feet. But Grady, for some reason, thinks it's a switch, and it's a wide open three for Craig Porter. And that, like, Scottie's like shrugging his shoulders, being like, "What are you doing? Like, what? We're not switching that."
Yeah.
There were a lot of. There was one possession where 3 guys jumped out at who was it? DeAndre Hunter. 3 guys ran out at him, and it was like Dean Wade just like cut to the basket and got a dunk out of that. Yeah. So there's just still a lot of those miscommunications happening, and just a lot of times where they've actually, I think, scaled the aggressiveness back in some areas. We're seeing fewer of the blind doubles, less of like the full court pressure that wasn't really working, but still situations where it's like, maybe just dial it back a bit. You know, like Scottie on one possession had DeAndre Hunter pinned under the basket, and Jak just kind of needlessly comes over and reaches in to like try and steal the ball, and it winds up being an and one. You know, and they're still just fouling the bejesus out of everybody.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you look at that game, and if you look at the big picture for the season so far, they have righted the ship on the surface. They're up to 15th in defensive efficiency, but their defensive shot profile per cleaning the glass is the 3rd worst in the league, allowing the 3rd highest frequency of rim shots and the 6th highest frequency of corner threes. And they've just been kind of fortunate that opponents are shooting 32% from deep against them. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's on top of the fact that they're sending opponents to the free throw line at like the 5th highest rate in the league. And they're a bottom half defensive rebounding team as well, which, just like a quick note on that, which illustrates the way that like the league is changing right now. The Raptors have a defensive rebound rate that would have ranked dead last in the league last year. Mm-hmm. Do you have a guess as to where that ranks them this year?
They're like 23rd, right? Something like that.
18th.
18th. Okay.
18th. So that's how much offensive rebounding has become a priority around the league. So they're actually not terrible in that department, but they're not good in the defensive rebounding department. And so that the shot profile, coupled with the fact that they're fouling a ton and sending opponents to the line a ton, is just a big red flag for me. And it's great that the offense is carrying them right now, and they've banked these wins with the defense on the surface showing all this improvement. But I think the communication is something they still really need to clean up.
For my Joe, all well-taken points, I am going to highlight a good area of the defense, which is they've been killing it as a transition defense team so far, and they did that to the Cavs again last night. I went back and watched all the transition possessions, and just shocker, Scottie Barnes is all over them, just like breaking up 2-on-1s, blocking shots at the rim, just kind of conducting the defense from the back. But I think the thing that I'm noticing here is they have kind of ditched, you know, you mentioned the league is going so far towards offensive rebounding. They're almost kind of zagging, it seems, where they are sending maybe one guy. And maybe this is just them just trusting their newfound incredible top 10 offense. Maybe this is a sort of concerted effort to try to limit the other team in transition, which, like, you know, as much as offensive rebounds are a place to kind of press the math advantage, so is suppressing scoring in the most high efficiency area of the floor, which is the open court. And so you're seeing, like, you know, the shot goes up and like 4 or 5 guys are tracking back. They're in shape. They like aren't just sort of giving up those runouts. And I don't know. I'm pretty interested. They are the number 2 transition team so far this year in terms of points allowed per possession, 3rd in terms of suppressing frequency of transition. So, like, I mean, again, 1st in how much they do run, 3rd best in how much they limit other teams running. That's game in the math to their advantage. And I'm curious if that can hold up. I think that's a pretty interesting little nugget that, you know, we've heard Darko talk about offensive rebounding being a priority for him in the past. Seems like maybe less so this year, and I wonder if that's going to persist as the season goes along, or if it's just small sample weirdness. And Joe, wrap it up with your what you got?
2 point guard lineups: Jamal Shed, Emmanuel Quickly. Only 23 minutes on the season, but we're seeing it more and more. I think it was 8 minutes of it last night. Mm-hmm. The numbers with both of these guys on the floor are just tremendous. And again, small sample, only 23 minutes, but a 130.2 offensive rating. And here are the things that are sticking out to me. Like I mentioned, quickly being able to play off the ball and that helping get that 3-point volume up. So in those 23 minutes, he has taken 8 threes, which is 12.5 per 36. That's an awesome number. And that's just, again, Shed is the guy who can puncture the defense, who's going to drive, kick out, get guys open looks. And so quickly being there to sort of play off of that, be the beneficiary of that with some catch and shoot threes is great. And also just having that much ball handling on the floor. If you look at, the raw numbers in those 23 minutes and what has helped them get to that 130 offensive rating, it hasn't been 3-point shooting. It's been the fact that they have turned the ball over one time in those 23 minutes. And that's against 19 assists. 19 assists to 1 turnover in those 23 minutes. Having ball handling on the floor is good. And I would love to see more of that twin PG look because I think it's worked out exceptionally well so far. So you don't want to overplay it because, again, you need some size on the floor at a lot of other times. But in mixed groups, I like that look a lot.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, Joe. You can find the show, of course, as always, on your favorite podcast apps and YouTube. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, etc. It's always appreciated when you support the show, however it is you choose to support. Even just telling a friend. It's a good old word of mouth as we get away from being so online as the internet decays. Tell a friend about a podcast that's good. It's a nice thing to do. You can join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. That's not decaying. It's just going on up from here. As the team, if they're good, I imagine it's going to be even more fun to hang out in there. So please be part of our listener community. We'll talk to you again on Monday about probably a very comfortable win over the decimated Indiana Pacers. Fingers crossed. Poor Pascal Siakam. And we'll talk to you again. Have a great, wonderful weekend. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.